Welcome to Discovering. We're heading for the waters of Lake Michigan out of Fairport in search of salmon, steelhead, and lake trout.
One good thing about booking a fishing charter is you don't need any of the gear, just Michigan fishing license, comfortable clothes. Anyone can come out and do this.
Stick around, it's all tonight right here on Discovering.
The secret streams that flow beneath the cliffs of colored stone. Forest thick and healthy with birch and pine and oak. Surrounded by the greatest lakes this world has ever known. The black bear's awesome presence as he roams the hills and fields. Call of the timber wolf, the loon's lonesome trill, the eagle soaring high above, the trout lies deep and still. These are what I treasure, the only way I measure feelings that I have for this fine land. There is so much to discover when you're a long-time lover of northern Michigan.
Different types of fishing require different tactics, and in many cases, different equipment. Fly fishing, of course, requires a fly rod and all the goodies that go with it. You might use a different rod and reel for fishing bass than you would for walleye, and also different tackle. So if you want to fish on the big water for trout or salmon, you'll need equipment to match the species and tactics you plan to incorporate. A boat, rods, reels, tackle, maybe downriggers, and of course knowledge of where the fish are and how to catch them. If you're short on any of the items in that list, all is not lost. As a matter of fact, it's pretty simple. Charter fishing. We are surrounded by a wealth of excellent charter fishing services that make taking advantage of the great fishing opportunities we have a breeze. Patty and I hopped on board the Blitzkrieg with John and Sheila Krieger of Blitzkrieg Sport Fishing for an evening of fishing on Lake Michigan.
Well, we've motored out, set up about 150 feet of water. Currently there's been 2 bites off Fairport, one in a deeper water bite, and seems earlier in the day seems to be better, and then later in the evening we'll move in closer near shore. Drop the wire dipsies first, and we'll work to the downriggers, get the lead cores and the coppers in the water. I like to double check all the swivels because if you miss one, it's over. It's a dipsy diver and a rotating flasher. It's about a 6-foot leader, 7-foot leader. And about 24 inches to the fly. Set one about 40 feet down, we'll set the other one probably about 60 or 70 feet down. Fishing out of Fairport's been pretty good. There's been a really good bite up out of Manistee. And then basically around Escanaba, it's kind of been non-existent as of yet, but they still might show up there yet this year. Could be too much bait fish around for them at the time to catch in any good numbers. So it's a fin spoon Barney. I'm gonna put it out on a 200 copper. It's been catching us some fish. Yeah, we'll be using mostly UP made spoons today by Moonshine and fin spoons, purple nurple. They're catching most of our fish for us out here. So got one going on a downrigger. He's up. Yep, as long as he's coming, keep him coming. Take them and we'll clip the gills. They bleed out in the cooler. And then that way, when you go to fillet them, there's no blood in the fillet. Nice clean fillets. That was a Chinook salmon. We've been catching a lot of Chinooks, up to 20 pounds. Steelhead up to 10-pound range, and then lake trout anywhere from 6 to 8 pounds on a regular basis. A lot of days we catch a little bit of everything. Well, we're targeting different levels of the water column by using downriggers, dipsy divers, coppers, and lead cores. Basically starting from the inside out, where the inside rods would be our deepest, and we're working our way up to the outside. We normally fish out of the port of Escanaba, but lately the salmon fishing hasn't been as good over there this year. So we've been fishing out of Fairport mostly this year. And there's also a pretty good bite going on in Manistee right now, and I've heard of some fish caught out of Cedar River. So in the coming weeks I'll probably be trying over there a little more, but we've been on probably about a seven fish average over here per trip. So pretty good. Mixed species between lake trout, steelhead, and Chinook salmon. Well, we're mainly fishing for suspended fish today. We're out in close to 150 feet of water, and I don't think we've got a lure lower than 60 to 70 feet in the water. And we've put a few in the box so far. And people who wanted to come out here and try this in their own boats, I think they have to get, say, real close to the bottom or really deep in the water column to catch anything. That's not the case. Sugar. Small Lake Michigan Chinook. A lot of people would throw that back. That's dinner. Come out and get anywhere from 30 to 50 feet down, and in certain areas you can take the graph you already have on your boat, turn the sensitivity of all the way up, turn the gain all the way up. And you can tell where the thermocline is by the clutter that'll come across the screen at a certain level for it. Just take your time. You guys, a lot of times you got to let him do whatever he's going to do the first couple of minutes of fighting it. A little heavier fish, huh? The thermocline is usually the 50-degree mark on the water, where it's more comfortable for the king salmon and other fish species to be out of the warm water. Fish aren't too different from humans, where you never want to be in too hot a temperatures, so stick to the colder water. And most people never go too far from the grocery store or the fridge, so they're always close to the food also. If you target that zone, you'll put a few fish in the box doing that. These longer lines, a lot of times what I like to do is take a couple of steps back, especially on the calm days, and just keep the steady tension of the rod, not pumping it, just reeling. And then as you come back forward, constantly reeling as you come back forward. It'll help you gain a little ground a little faster. What you don't want to do is sit there and pump the rod and reel, because then every time you do that, you're wearing the hole larger in the fish's mouth. So you got to get the board up out of the water to keep it from diving on you. Oh, board's underwater. This is a good one. If that happens, you got to loosen the drag all the way and just let the board come back to the surface. Otherwise, you're fighting the drag and you're fighting the planer board underwater. Oh, we got a good one here. A lot of times you got to let the fish do whatever it wants for the first couple of minutes, because they'll take a lot of line out at times and kind of wear them out. You bring them back to the boat with this many lines in the water, and they're going to want to tangle something. Okay, you feel it, hold this, but don't reel. Let line just come out of it, because that planer board's still out of water. Keep bringing that fish in, and keep an eye out for the planer board back there. We need it to come out of the water, otherwise we're going to have to turn the boat. Okay, let me do this first. That planer board's still underwater. Otherwise, you're fighting the resistance of the planer board along with the resistance of the line. There it is. See it out there? Can you see it out there? We'll see you tomorrow. Here you go.
Oh my gosh.
Lake Michigan steelhead, I would say 6 or 7 pounds. Clipped adipose fin, most likely a planted fish. That one came on a Dreamweaver caramel dolphin. I'll keep looking for the planer board and I can see it now. Okay, as long as you can see it.
Yeah.
If you see that temperature or current break in the water over there, a lot of times I fish alongside of that or over the top of it. And, either there's scum line there, or bugs accumulating, or a water temperature change, and fish tend to congregate around stuff like that. There's another belt down there if you'd like. Any little change in the water. Okay, remember you gotta let him do what he wants to for the first few minutes.
All right, now it's a race. Let's see if you can get it. Up a little higher, yeah. King salmon, Chinook. Yep, that's a planter fish. Missing an adipose fin. Feet. I would say 20 to 30 minutes so far on this fish alone. They reel a little bit. Okay, we just gotta let him do that a little bit if he's going to this close to the boat, because there's less stretch in the line at this point. Fish hit at 300 copper. Probably took out about another 700-800 feet of line and sunk the planer board, where you have to loosen the drag on the reel almost completely, because otherwise you're fighting the drag and the resistance of the planer board underwater, and we've had a couple of fish snap off like that this year. So by the time it finally came back to the surface, it was quite a ways out there. Lake Michigan Chinook, king salmon, wild fish, good size one. He's probably, I'd say 15, 16. It's fun. Now I'm done. Get the rest.
All right, who's up?
That's all you can.
Captain doesn't catch the fish. Who's gonna net it then?
I'll net it.
Been a lot of debate over the status of the alewife population in Lake Michigan, where they've reduced the planning pretty significantly across the board in Lake Michigan. Well, in my opinion, with the past 2 winters we've had, the water never warmed up to the levels in the summer where they did the trawls to determine where the alewife population was. That I think the alewives came to shore a lot later in the fall than what they did, and by the time they did their trawls in the small section of the Lake Michigan, that
They just weren't there for them to determine the numbers. It's obviously we're not catching starved fish. You know, the alewives that I have seen, a lot of them tend to be a little bit smaller, but there is still plenty of alewives out here based on what I see on the graph all the time when I'm out here. Then there's also been a lot of debate on the reduction in salmon stocking by the DNR when the federal government is still putting as many lake trout into the lake as they have in the past. You know, they haven't reduced any cutting as far as I know, and so there's been quite a bit of back and forth between whether or not the people want the non-native species of the Chinook salmon as opposed to the native species of the lake trout, where more people are interested in catching the Chinook salmon. I think similar to Lake Huron, there's probably a lot more people more educated in this than I am, but with the zebra mussels and the quagga mussels that have invaded the Great Lakes, they're kind of filter feeding the Great Lakes to a clarity level, eating all the zooplankton and all the bottom level food chain that the alewives also eat. So along with the harsh winters and the cleansing of the lake basically by all those small mussels, that it's causing the problem with the alewife population to cause the reduction of or concern of the king salmon fishery. Chinook salmon, wild fish, perfect size in my opinion. The boat's a 27-foot 4 winds, name of Blitzkrieg. We can fish up to 6 people out of it. Kicker motor, autopilot, fish hawk, Humminbird electronics, onboard porta potty, women's restroom, crucial, definitely. Very comfortable ride. You'll have to reel the dipsy all the way to the tip and then back up. Pull them over this way if you can. It's all right. One good thing about booking a fishing charter is you don't need any equipment, you don't need any of the gear, just comfortable clothes, Michigan fishing license. Anyone can come out and do this. Families, kids, people of all ages come out and fish. No experience necessary.
Catching them while they're there, you know.
No. Well, we're mainly fishing for suspended fish today. We're out in close to 150 feet of water, and I don't think we've got a lure lower than 60 to 70 feet in the water. And you know, we've put a few in the box so far, and you know, people who wanted to come out here and try this in their own boats that think they have to get, say, real close to the bottom or really deep in the water column to catch anything. That's not the case. Greatly cut down the learning curve to come out just for an afternoon, you know, if you're just getting into this, and see how certain gear is set up and see how certain things go into the water and in order to keep you from getting tangles and keep you from losing a lot of gear, and basically show you how to take a look at the water and cut down certain areas to get you closer to catching fish right off the bat instead of spending a lot of time and effort into not putting any fish in the box. No, something hit this. Well, I basically grew up fishing the Ford River right in my backyard as a kid. And then for a lot of years there were a lot of people willing to take me out with them. And got older, just constantly kept fishing, did a little guiding over the years, ice fishing and rental shacks, and then worked for a local machining company for 15 or 16 years, and it wasn't so much fun, so I went and got a job I liked and decided to become a charter captain. I just came to the surface and have enjoyment of watching other people catch fish. The name came about was Grandpa on my dad's side. His first name was Laverne. Well, nobody ever called him Laverne. It was Blitz all the time. Probably from World War II, where both my grandpas were both in World War II. And the name came about kind of in honor of him. I do it for the enjoyment of the fishing, and then just being outdoors and kind of the solitude from time to time of being absolutely away from anybody you haven't invited with you, basically, you know, or just paid to come along, so I guess you can't really say that either. But being away, you know, catching fish, and I get a lot of enjoyment of watching other people catch fish. We've been doing it so long that I've caught everything I've wanted to catch over time, so fun. If you're going to become a charter captain, you better be single or have a very understanding wife. Yes, that's you.
A charter is certainly a great way to catch fish you might not otherwise have had the opportunity to catch. Fresh Lake Michigan salmon for dinner is great, but it's about more than just fish. It provides the chance to try something different. Really reminds me of how lucky we are to live where we live. To be able to sit in a boat on a gorgeous UP evening, the sun setting on one side and the moon rising on the other. The smell of the open water and fish. Not a bad way to spend a day in your own backyard. Well, that's it for tonight. If you'd like to keep tabs on what's coming up on Discovering or see where we've been, you can join us on Facebook or go to 906outdoors.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week right here on Discovering.